we have everyone's attention? We are pleased to announce the arrival of our guest of honor. President Aquino, together with the Secretary of the Department of Energy, Zenaida Y. Monsada, will tour the facility guided by Aboitiz Power Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Eramon Aboitiz, before proceeding to our program site. During the President's tour, he will be seeing the following facilities you are now seeing on screen. This includes the first in the Philippines coal unloader and the first in Southeast Asia's coal dome. These also includes a water treatment facility and a coal crusher building. The complex is divided by the Inawayan River, which is the boundary between Davao City and Davao del Sur. The facility also has a 150-meter distinguished guests, let us welcome our guest of honor. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Republic of the Philippines, His Excellency Benigno S. Aquino III. Let us all remain standing and join in the singing of the Philippine National Anthem to be led by the Therma South Inc. Chorale. We now bow our heads as we remain standing for a solemn prayer. The start of a new year always brings hope to each one of us. A fresh beginning, a recognition of events past, and a resolve to make things better in the coming days. As we come together to celebrate this beautiful morning, we praise and thank you for the gifts of life, wisdom, energy, and partnership. In our quest to make people's lives more comfortable and more efficient, you have blessed us with the wisdom to find and create solutions that will not just last, but will prosper our communities and our culture. You inspired us to harness latent energy by unifying institutions and stakeholders in partnerships that will hopefully bear fruit for the good of everyone. Despite our differences in faith and practice, we stand united as one family of believers, imploring your aid and generous blessings upon this great endeavor we call our own. Today, all over Mindanao, a brand new era of progress and development shines radiant with hope and power. We firmly believe that you are in the midst of all these. You, O God, are good. You are great. You are almighty. Amen. Thank you very much. All may now be seated, please. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a wonderful Friday morning for the inauguration of the 300mw Davao Baseload power plant here at the boundaries of Davao City and Davao del Sur. On this 8th day of January 2016, we celebrate a brand new era of progress and development made possible by the joint efforts of various stakeholders in our midst. Unified by a singular vision of establishing a power generation facility that is responsibly operated, totally efficient, and fully compliant with environmental laws, we witness and listen to the words of distinguished representatives of the institutions that have made this dream possible. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chief Executive Officer of Aboitiz Power, Mr. Eramon I. Aboitiz.
His Excellency Benigno S. Aquino III, President of the Republic of the Philippines, members of the Cabinet, our partners in the Davao City and Davao del Sur local government units, our partners in the energy industry, friends from media, TSI customers and colleagues in the power industry, representatives of TSI's creditor banks, and our other partners and honored guests, fellow team members of the Aboitiz Group, friends, ladies and gentlemen, mayong untod sa atong lahat. It is my honor to welcome you to the inauguration of Aboitiz Power's Therma South 300mw baseload power plant here in beautiful Davao City. Over the past couple of decades, Mindanao has suffered from several power crises, primarily brought about by droughts that, because of its overdependence on hydropower, resulted in a shortfall of power with outages extending up to 8 hours a day during the summer months. With the region's economic growth over the years, the island's need for additional capacity fell short because it was not feasible for private capital to put up the required capacity and compete with Napacor's low selling prices. As a result, power reserves in Mindanao dwindled away, hence the power crisis recurring more often as time went by. Mindanao was reeling from the painful 2009 power crisis when Aboitiz Power decided it had to make a bold move to build a 200mw power plant in southern Mindanao. We eventually increased the size of the power station to TSI's current capacity of 300 megawatts. In 2010, Aboitiz Power made known to Davao City's government officials, the local business community, and other stakeholders of its intention to build a baseload coal power plant in Davao City that would diversify the island's overdependence on hydro and alleviate Davao City and Mindanao's power shortfalls. To be fully transparent, there were some concerns and reservations related to coal and its environmental impact. We assured all the stakeholders that we would bring in the most modern facilities and would operate under the strictest environmental standards. The days of highly polluting coal plants are a thing of the past and would definitely not be tolerated under Aboitiz Power's watch. After all, the Aboitiz Group has been an important part of Davao and its growth for many decades, and we would not do anything that was not good for Davao. We encouraged Mayor Sara Duterte and the City Council to host the power station in Davao so they could ensure we would comply with our obligations and what we said we were going to do. I recall when a group visited our Steag power plant in Misamis Oriental as part of the consultative process we went through in developing this TSI plant. One of the participants stepped out of the bus and asked, "Why did you bring us here when the plant was not running? There was no smoke, there was no loud noise, and this gave the impression that the plant was shut down." But we explained, no, the plant is operating at full load. It sure didn't seem that way. Aboitiz Power considers it our responsibility to provide ample and reliable power when needed, at a fair and competitive price, and to do so with the least adverse effect on the environment and the community. So when we designed this TSI plant, we made sure we were consistent with our responsibilities. TSI will provide Mindanao with 260 megawatts of reliable, net sellable base load capacity, independent from rainfall or other natural weather conditions that are out of our control. It is using state-of-the-art circulating fluidized bed technology that is many times referred to as clean coal, and will ensure high efficiency and dependability. And we did not hold back to ensure that the other facilities would mitigate any environmental effects. You can all bear witness to not only, or to the country's first coal dome, coupled with fully covered conveyors to ensure coal dust does not affect our neighbors and host communities. We wanted to make sure TSI would be a showcase and an example of what a coal plant can and should be like. By the way, TSI is running at full load today and there is no smoke. Aboitiz Power, through its 100% owned subsidiary, Therma South, invested 35 billion pesos in this facility. We announced our intention to build this power station in 2010, selected and purchased the land, secured the necessary permits, began construction in 2012, and during its peak, we employed more than 4,500 local workers. Atypical of normal projects of this type, where contracts and finance are in place before breaking ground, Aboitiz Power cut to the chase by bridging the funding requirement with 100% equity and started construction without any power sales agreements to back up our capacity. We were determined to help solve the Mindanao power problem as soon as possible. By 2014, we fully sold the plant's capacity to more than 20 electric cooperatives and distribution utilities all over Mindanao. This facility will serve the areas of Davao, Caraga, Cotabato, Sultan Kudarat, Sarangani, and parts of Bukidnon, Misamis, and the Zamboanga Peninsula. We hope that the supply of much-needed electricity will help Mindanao sustain its economic growth and fulfill its potential. We are also pleased to note that following the groundbreaking and construction of this Davao plant, other private power producers have started to invest in Mindanao, and we hope their entry in the coming years will eventually lead to a steady and reliable supply of power in this region. For us, this is a strong attestation that EPIRA is indeed working and has allowed private investment to come in and help Mindanao secure its power needs. EPIRA has positively transformed our power industry from a monopolized, politicized, and heavily subsidized structure into one that is competitive and bears the true cost of power. The competitive structure was envisioned to attract investment, drive down power costs, and empower the end user. Things we are actually seeing happen in our country today. It is truly a Herculean effort that we can all be very proud of. We are confident that the benefits we're experiencing in Luzon and Visayas will come to Mindanao as our policymakers introduce the WESM, open access, and other initiatives contemplated under EPIDA. This facility we're inaugurating today is part of Aboitiz Power's goal to enhance our portfolio and increase Aboitiz Power's capacity by 2,000 megawatts by 2020. Aside from TSI, Aboitiz Power has also commissioned about 55 megawatts of run-of-river hydro in Davao and is building another 69 megawatts in Manolo Fortich in Bukidnon, which should be commissioned by 2017. As one of the country's largest providers of renewable energy, with a RE portfolio of approximately 1,000 megawatts, representing close to 40% of our capacity, Aboitiz Power is committed to support the Mindanao Energy Development Plan of the Department of Energy and the Mindanao Development Authority, which are both pushing for a balance of renewable and non-renewable sources of power for the region. As we know, building power plants is challenging, complex, risky, and a long-term undertaking. And this facility, which was conceived more than 5 years ago, would not have been made possible without the much needed and unequivocal support and cooperation of all our stakeholders. First, we would like to thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership in setting the stage for sustainable and inclusive growth through your policies on good governance, transparency, and accountability. Your governance platform of Daang Matuwid has won back the confidence in our country, attracting local and foreign investments and sustaining the upward economic trajectory of our country. We thank all the Mindanaoans and the Davaoeños in particular for believing in us and allowing us to build this plant. Our gratitude goes out to the communities of Binugao and Inawagan, including the neighboring Muslim community, who, despite early concerns, accepted us and worked with us in this project. We also acknowledge and thank the Matigsalud IP community for partnering with us in our carbon sink management program. They will help us establish a forest ecosystem that will absorb part of the power plant's carbon emissions and at the same time revitalize their ancestral land. Let me also take this opportunity to thank the Davao City Council and the Santa Cruz Municipal Council for their prompt approval and support to this project. We are also grateful for the support of Mayor Duterte and ex-Mayor Sara Duterte and Santa Cruz Mayor Joel Ray Lopez. We thank the various national government agencies without whose strong support this project would not have come to fruition. Thank you, Secretary Monsada and the DOE. Thank you, Secretary Paje and the DENR. We also thank the ERC for the timely approvals of TSI's related power supply contracts. This allowed co-ops to immediately draw power from the plant during the commissioning stage and as soon as we declared Unit 1 in full commercial operation last September. To the other energy sector stakeholders, PISALM, NPC, PEMC, and NGCP, thank you too for your support. And of course, we must thank our customers, the off-takers of this plant, for your trust and confidence in TSI and Aboitiz Power. We also thank our EPC contractors, Black & Veatch and Formosa Heavy Industries, our very supportive and accommodating creditor banks, our suppliers, legal and technical advisors, for your support that enabled us to move forward quickly to build this facility. Last but certainly not least, we thank and congratulate our power development and execution teams and our sales teams for their strong commitment, tenacity, and hard work to see this project through. On behalf of the Aboitiz Group, thank you all for joining us in today's momentous occasion, and once again for your continued support. We are all partners in helping provide a sustainable solution for our country's growing demand for power and to energize the dreams and hopes of our fellow Filipinos for a better future. We wish you all the very best in 2016 and hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and a big hand for Mr. Eramon Aboitiz. To speak on behalf of one of the country's most progressive and safest cities, please welcome the Honorable OIC Mayor of the City of Davao, Mr. Carlo S. Bello.
To His Excellency President Benigno S. Aquino III, Mr. Eramon I. Aboitiz, Honorable Mayor Joel Ray Lopez, officials of Santa Cruz and of the Davao City 17 Council, friends, mayang utos kanatong tanan. It is my honor to represent the acting mayor, the Honorable Paulo Duterte, to this gathering. Were it not for his very demanding schedule, he would have been here today to personally give this message that I am about to read. Again, to His Excellency President Benigno S. Aquino III, Mr. Eramon I. Aboitiz, Honorable Mayor Joel Ray Lopez, guests, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I thank Aboitiz Power for giving me the honor of giving a brief message before distinguished guests in today's very important and historic event, the inauguration of the 300mw Davao Baseload power plant. In recent years, advances in technology have allowed thermal plants to improve living conditions with its current role in meeting man's energy requirements. It is the prime interest of the people that better technology is employed to ensure that there is a balance between ecology and economics in producing sustainable and affordable energy. The economy of our island, Mindanao, more particularly Davao City, is fast rising, and a reliable and affordable energy supply is indispensable and pivotal. Aboitiz Power, in its endeavor to work hand in hand with our government, has undertaken to exercise safe practices and utilize enhanced and advanced technology in the operation of the plant's energy production, thereby ensuring this land's future generations continuous supply of power and energy. To this, we are truly grateful. Your commitment to a strict compliance with the Philippine Clean Air Act standards prompts us to give you the assurance of our local government support in our shared desire to uplift the lives of our people through sustained energy generation. On behalf of the people of the City of Davao, dagan salamat, Aboitiz Power, and congratulations. Signed by the Honorable Paulo Z. Duterte, Acting Mayor, City of Davao. Dagan salamat, and God bless kanatong tanan.
Thank you, OIC Mayor Bello. And now to speak on behalf of the municipality of Santa Cruz, Davao del Sur, we have with us the town's Honorable Mayor, Joel Ray Lopez.
His Excellency Benigno Simeon Cojanco Aquino III, President of the Republic of the Philippines, OIC Mayor Bello, Congressman Nograles, my fellow public servants, Mr. Eramon Aboitiz, and members of the Aboitiz family, as well as the member of its corporate family. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a great honor to be invited to this momentous event, the inauguration of the first major large-scale baseload power project to be completed in Mindanao since 2007, owned and operated by the ThermaSouth Incorporated of Aboitiz Power. A desirable result of the partnership between the government and the private sector, within the bounds of the law. It may not be the usual kind of public and private partnership in the strict sense of the word, but it is an appropriate collaboration of the government and the private sector for a laudable project coupled with sincere and good intention. This huge investment will not only solve the power crisis, but this will eventually attract even more investors into the Davao region. In behalf of the local government unit of Santa Cruz, Davao del Sur, let me express my deepest thanks and gratitude to the Aboitiz Power and to all those who helped make this project possible. Happy New Year and God bless us all.
Thank you, Mayor Joel Ray Lopez. Ladies and gentlemen, we now commence with a formal presentation and dedication ceremony. We now call on Mr. Sebastian R. Lacson, COO of Aboitiz Power Coal Group, for the presentation.
Your Excellency President Aquino, Honorable Mayor Lopez, Honorable OIC Mayor Bello, and Mr. Ramon Aboitiz, our valued partners, customers, stakeholders, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, it is our privilege to present to you the 300 megawatt Davao Power Plant, whose Unit 1 commenced commercial operations on September 18, 2015, and Unit 2 will commence in February of 2016, supplying much-needed baseload power to the Mindanao grid. On behalf of Aboitiz Power, we present to you this facility as solid proof of our company's commitment to power up Mindanao and contribute to government's effort at nation building. Today, we dedicate this 300 megawatt Davao Baseload power plant to all our communities, customers, stakeholders, and valued partners in providing a better future for our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lacson. At this point, may we now ask President Aquino to be joined by Mayor Lopez and OIC Mayor Bello, Mr. Ramon Aboitiz, Secretary Zenaida Y. Monsada, Secretary Voltaire Gazmin, and Chairperson Lualhati R. Antonino for the ceremonial switch-on, while the rest of the dignitaries on stage stand as witnesses. This will formally seal our dedication ceremony, participated in by the national and local governments, as well as the host communities, and spearheaded by Aboitiz Power. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are now ready for the ceremonial switch-on. On our cue, 3, 2, 1. Let us all power up Mindanao. Thank you, Mr. President, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen. At this point, may we now call on the Honorable Zenaida Y. Monsada, Secretary of the Department of Energy, to formally introduce this morning's guest of honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Republic of the Philippines, His Excellency Benigno Simeon Aquino III.
Thank you. Good morning. Please down. Secretary Zenaida Monsada, Secretary Walhati Antonino, Secretary Voltaire Gasmin, Mr. Ramon Aboitiz, Mr. John Ramon Aboitiz, Commissioner Josefina Patricia Asirit, Mayor Joel Ray Lopez, Representative Carlo Nograles, Councilor Carlo Bello, Ms. Melinda Ocampo, Archbishop Balles, officers and staff of the Boitis Power Corporation, fellow workers government, honored guests, mga pinalangga kong kaigsunan, mayong ugto sa tanan. Some of you might remember the dire state of the Philippine energy sector in the past. In the year 2000, the National Power Corporation's debt had ballooned to 1.2 trillion pesos. Let me repeat that, 1.2 trillion pesos, representing around a quarter of all of our nation's debt. I believe at that point, everyone knew the situation was untenable. After all, how could we as a nation continue servicing these debts, much more pay them off completely, while also allocating enough resources for infrastructure, healthcare, education, and other necessary services? The proposed solution came in the form of the Electric Power Industry Reform Act of 2001, or EPIRA. The plan for NAPOCOR to sell its plants to private entities with the proceeds being used to pay off debt, thus freeing up the necessary fiscal space for more projects and programs that directly benefit our people. The private sector could then professionalize the power sector. Decisions would be made solely based on sound economic policies, while at the same time continuing to service our nation's growing need for energy. Legislators from Mindanao, however, asked for a 10-year exemption from EPIRA. Perhaps it made sense in the short term. They pointed out that there was an oversupply of power in the region and that their energy was far cheaper compared to Luzon and Visayas. To be frank, maybe this exemption would have been fine if the situation had not changed, but the situation did change. Perhaps I can explain. In Mindanao, more than half of the energy supply is sourced from hydroelectric plants. The brunt of the cost for these plants goes into building the infrastructure. Afterwards, the only major expense is maintenance, as these plants do not really need fuel to run. Back in 2001, the government had already gotten its return on the original investment for the plants, which is why they were able to provide electricity at significantly low price points, lower even than the production cost of energy from other fuel sources. This became a problem because the population and the economy continued to grow, which naturally increased the demand for electricity. But EPIRA forbids government from putting up its own plants, and the private sector simply could not compete with the artificially low prices. The result, as the demand for electricity grew, the supply didn't. In fact, the hydroelectric plants that were once abundant sources of energy suffered from a number of factors, including the lack of regular maintenance, the vanishing watersheds, and the worsening effects of climate change. This was the situation that our administration inherited, and the results were clear. In recent years, Mindanao has had very little energy surplus. In 2010, this resulted in rotating brownouts that understandably frustrated our countrymen and that stifled local economies. This was a problem we had anticipated even before we took office, which is from day one. We made a stern commitment to foster an environment that would encourage the private sector to make massive investments in energy in Mindanao. We knew, however, that even if we succeeded, these plants would not begin operations overnight. Even the most basic power plants, after all, take around 3 to 4 years before completion. In the meantime, we had to come up with temporary measures to minimize the impact of the power situation. Amongst the schemes we came up with was the Mindanao Modular Gensets program, wherein government would help finance generator sets for cooperatives who wish to produce their own power. Government would then buy back these gensets once the baseload power plants were online. Sadly, this program did not have the impact that we hoped, as there were very few who took us up on that offer. And even then, those who did took the longest time to go through the necessary processes. Nevertheless, those who did avail of the modular gensets experienced less brownouts. In fact, in most cooperatives, they experienced no brownouts. We also approached partners in the private sector. For instance, through the interruptible load program, we spoke to big companies who had their own generator sets and asked if they could run their own generators instead of sourcing from the grid. All this work took a full-time commitment, and I must thank all those who have served as Secretary of Energy, namely Secretary Israel Medras, Ikot Petilla, and now Zenaida Monsada. They did all this even in the face of harsh critics who would speak loudly against us during the dry period when the hydropower production was low and completely forgot about the issue during the rainy season. These critics also made the most unreasonable demands: cheap, renewable, and sufficient energy delivered yesterday. Before I continue, allow me to point out, it's not as if we have forgotten our goals in terms of developing renewable energy and doing our part to mitigate climate risk. In fact, we have increased our usage of renewables and they now make up 33% of our energy mix. We have reduced the number of illegal logging hotspots by 88%. And in 2011, we started a national greening program, the goal of which is to plant 1.5 billion trees on 1.5 million hectares by this year. We did all this even if our nation's carbon emissions are minimal, especially compared to more industrialized countries. At the same time, the Mindanao situation has made it obvious that we also need more baseload power. After all, while I'm a believer in developing renewables, at this point we are still hounded by the questions. What if there's no wind? What if the clouds are overcast and the solar efficiency is down? What if we do not have enough biomass? Unfortunately, right now, we cannot wean ourselves completely from relying on coal. When this plant becomes fully operational, we can count on it to consistently produce 300 megawatts of baseload power, which means that this capacity can be tapped into anytime, rain or shine, with very minor fluctuations. To emphasize just how significant this is, this plant's dependable capacity is roughly equivalent to 1/5 of the Mindanao grid's highest peak demand in 2015. And it is already delivering power to areas at the end of the grid, such as Sarangani, General Santos, and the Zamboanga Peninsula. Apart from all the projects that have come to fruition during our administration, our private sector partners have committed to undertake at least another 11 power projects in Mindanao that will come online before the end of my term. Envision to produce at least another 675.30 megawatts of capacity, which will be more than enough to cover the projected increase in demand. Each time I speak about Mindanao, I mention how the goal for our administration is to transform it from the land of promise to the land of promises fulfilled. And over the past few years, we have seen the beginnings of this transformation. You have heard me say before that the mode of governance is so dependent in ARM on having the right leader. And I believe we have seen one prominent example in Mujib Hataman. Whereas before, the ARM governor was perhaps overly concerned with only his own family or his clan. Governor Hataman chose to carry out policies as dictated by all stakeholders, and the effect has been palpable. Just look at the amount of BOI ARM-approved investments. From 87.9 million in 2010, it increased to 3.9 billion in 2014. And might I note that this happened with all of the tensions in the region. But we must remember that Governor Hataman's time in office is limited, and we need to make sure that this region has a framework that can truly make good, inclusive governance the norm rather than the exception. This is why we need to pass the Bangsamoro Basic Law at the soonest possible time. For my part, I believe it would certainly push Mindanao and the Philippines further into the global spotlight. We thank Aboitiz Power Corporation and Therma South Incorporated for being an early believer in the potential of Mindanao. Rest assured, we will fulfill our promise to leave Mindanao in a better situation. We will maintain our steadfast commitment to peace. We will continue to focus the national coffers towards infrastructure development so that those who have historically been left behind are given a boost up so that they can catch up. And I'm certain that if we continue working together, both public and private sector alike, we can truly give rise to a Mindanao that reaches its full potential and prove once more that nothing is impossible to a united Filipino people. Thank you. Good day.
Thank you very much, His Excellency, President Benigno S. Aquino III. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just completed the inauguration of the 300 mw Davao Baseload power plant. We have likewise witnessed the joint commitment of private and government sectors to power up Mindanao through responsible operation of technologically advanced, safe, efficient, and reliable power plants that adequately supply the region's energy needs. We'd like to thank everyone for joining us in this morning's inauguration of the 300 mw Davao Baseload power plant. Together, let us power up Mindanao.
This is